Thanks for tuning in to our episode, Getting Down to Business. I'm Ashley Curtis, Assistant Program Director for the Bishop Center for Ethical Leadership.
And I'm Jill Brown, Academic and Career Advisor with the Mooma College of Business. And we've been looking forward to this episode, wanting to have USF World Study Abroad on our podcast. Of course, timing, everything else. But we have two guests today, and we're going to jump right in, and I'll let you all introduce yourselves.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Joseph Kenny. I am one of our program advisors from the USF Education Abroad Office.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Sherman. I'm a student recruiter for USF Education Abroad, and I'm also a student at USF St. Pete studying sustainability studies and political science.
Awesome. So, like I was telling you earlier, before we get started into the meat of our podcast, before every episode, we like to play a little game.
Warm everybody up, wake everybody up.
So,
including ourselves.
It's our 5-second game. So I'm going to give you a topic, and you'll have 5 seconds to name 3 items. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do it. Let's go.
So, name 3 chick flick movies.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Notting Hill.
I feel like I should know that.
Right? You just freeze.
I know.
Notting Hill was a good one.
That was.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, man.
Well, I don't even have another to add to that. I was like, any Julia Roberts movie? I don't know. Is that classified as chick? Oh, yes.
Right? I was watching You've Got Mail last night.
I knew that's the one you were going to say. Okay.
Here you
We'll
go.
pass it along to you all. You get to see if we can name.
Timer.
Okay. So I just pull one?
Yep,
and then-
just pull one.
Okay. Name 3 comedians.
Amy Schumer,
Robin
Taylor
Williams.
Tomlinson. We did it.
Wow.
Good job.
Good job, everyone.
I mean, we didn't
You guys are
even
beating us.
hesitate. Wow. Boom.
Pass this.
Oh, man.
All right. Thanks for playing.
That's awesome.
Woo.
All right. So, now let's get down to business. So, what we'd like you both to do is if you want to give our audience a 20-second elevator pitch of why you should study abroad.
Who wants to go first?
I think I can take that one first.
Okay.
Kelsey, would you like to do after? All right. My 20-second pitch would be, the world is a large place. We are all more connected than ever, right? But I would still say, in terms of cultures, it hasn't shrunk, right? Putting yourself outside your comfort zone in another culture, you learn a lot about yourself, place in the world. Those are skills which will carry you very far into the future.
Nice.
That was great. It's going to be hard to follow.
I know. I was like, no pressure. You should have gone, no, let me go
Right.
first. Okay.
So I would definitely say studying abroad is a unique opportunity to travel, to experience new countries while also earning the academic credit. It looks great on your resume. There's so much self-growth that happens, and you really just kind of gain those global competency skills and cultural awareness. So I would say it's definitely an experience that everyone should take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely.
I that was one of my, if I could go back in time,
Yes.
I wish I would have done this. And I think with today's episode, hopefully too, we're going to cover so much. So yeah, we'll get into it. And looking at the USF World website, there are a lot of programs, and we were talking about that just right before we started filming. Faculty-led, exchange, affiliate, non-affiliate, international internships. And it's a lot for students to discern. So if you each maybe want to take a turn to talk about the different programs, if we can kind of break them down, and helping students find their best fit.
Yeah, I think I can start us off with this one.
Okay.
So faculty-led programs, they're basically kind of like you're taking a class at USF. So it's USF professors, you're going with fellow USF students, and you're getting that credit directly from USF. And then our affiliate.
All right, that seems easy enough.
Yeah, easy
Okay.
enough.
All right, faculty-led, check.
Exactly. And then our affiliate and exchange programs really just serve to give more options beyond what our faculty might be offering in a particular semester. So exchange programs are kind of like you go to a different university for the entire semester. Those are definitely the more like independent type programs, and sometimes the most immersive, because it's really like you're there, you get to do kind of whatever you want to do. You have like the same freedoms that you have like when you're studying here. So it's definitely interesting in that sense. So some people really like that and they want to be there for a longer period of time.
All right, let me ask then, with an
Yeah.
exchange, are you living with a family? Are you still in a university type setting? Right, with the faculty led, you would be going to another university sponsored in that sense, right?
Yeah, so and Joseph, you can jump in on this one if you want. But I think there are opportunities to like live on campus at the universities.
It depends on the
Um,
program.
It
There are
does.
some
Okay.
opportunities, both faculty-led and semester exchange, where housing might be with a university partner, might be with a host family locally, might just be with our individual student group at local hotels, right?
All right.
It kind of varies program
Okay.
by program.
All right. Cool. That was a question. I always
yeah, for
just
sure.
curious.
Sure.
And then another cool thing about exchange programs is that you actually pay in-state tuition, so it can be like the same price as you're paying to be here at USF.
All right. I think we
so
answered probably something we will ask later.
yeah. So that's a big draw for some
Yeah.
students.
Definitely.
And then our affiliate programs, these tend to be a little bit more specialized to certain majors, and they can be for shorter periods of time. But similarly to the exchange programs, the credit you get it from like that institution, and then it transfers back to USF.
Okay.
So really a lot more options. And my study abroad was an affiliate program. So
Excellent. Excellent.
Nice. So speaking of your study abroad,
Right. Great lead in. Great
yeah.
lead in.
Not even playing. Speaking of your study abroad, you studied abroad in Iceland. Can you talk
Did.
to us a little bit about some of the highlights and your favorite experiences from your program?
Yeah, so it was an absolutely incredible experience. Iceland is just a gorgeous place. The natural landscapes are just so stunning. So there were so many highlights. It was a renewable energy focused program, and that fit like right in with my sustainability studies major. So I really learned a lot. We got to have some amazing lectures and also like hands-on visits to power plants, and so that was super cool. But my favorite part was probably one, the people that I got to meet. Some of the people from the program I'm still close friends with to this day, so that was amazing. And second, I'm a big nature person, so we did this one incredible hike, and it ended up being like 10 miles, like up
Oh,
and
wow.
down like a mountain. But once we got to the peak, it was so stunning. I've never seen anything like it. And you just felt so accomplished that like you made it up there. And so that's something that I'll never forget. And then we did like a little meditation at the top. So it was just such an amazing experience, and I want to go back. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting because there's so many wonderful experiences when you study abroad, but I think sometimes, going from the US to just a different culture, sometimes there's also a culture shock. And so wondering, were there any adjustments when you first got there that you experienced that you want to share with us as well?
Yeah. I think this isn't really like a cultural adjustment. It was just kind of cold there, like it was in the summer. It was pretty chilly, so I definitely had to get used to that. Like I'm from Florida, lived here my whole life, so that was definitely an adjustment. But culturally, it wasn't that much different. It seemed like everyone was really welcoming, really friendly. So there wasn't really honestly too much to adjust to.
Right.
But it was nice to be kind of like welcomed with open arms.
I'm curious, how many were in your group then?
I think it was around 20 of us.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was a lot of people from different like universities, different parts of the
Cool.
country.
Yeah.
There were some undergraduate students, there were some graduate students, and there were some professionals as well. So it was
Ooh.
really like a very interesting mix of different perspectives, you know? And so like even more than like the actual curriculum of the program, I learned from like the cohort, So that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I have to ask too. I've got lots of questions.
Yeah.
How did you kind of stumble across this? Find out? I mean, it was a good match with your major, so I'm curious if that was the start.
Right. So I knew that I wanted to study abroad,
Okay.
and I knew that I wanted it to have something to do with my major. I was looking for something kind of environmentally related. And so I was just kind of browsing the website, and I came across the green program. And so then it took me to their website, and I just really felt like one aligned with their mission. They're a very sustainable company. All of their study abroads are focused on like environmental issues. And then obviously like I saw Iceland and I was like, that seems incredible. I feel like I would learn so much from that. And I just applied and I went. So
And then I'm assuming you connected with Joseph here or the office, USF
Yes,
World.
I was working as a student recruiter
Okay.
at that time, so I definitely asked Joseph a lot of questions. But we also have like an affiliate team at USF like Tampa because we are like one USF,
Mhm.
the whole like USF World. So I worked with Kirby. Remind me of his last name again.
Purdom
Purdom.
is our program advisor for affiliate programs.
Yep.
So he helped me a little bit as
Fantastic.
well.
But you made the connections basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. And that kind of leads us, unless you have anything else.
No.
Okay. Leads us to the next question. The website, and like you mentioned, it's one USF, USF World, the website, the web page. And I definitely have had students asking, and then you start to click, and then it's like click. Holy moly, it opens up, so many doors and avenues, and you can almost get lost. And so for a student that is interested, I'm gonna oops, I think I hit the mic. Direct this to you, Joseph. Like, what's step one for a student that's like, yeah, I really do want to study abroad?
Excellent question. It can be overwhelming to students at first, right? A lot of the students who come to us might say, hey, I've always wanted to study abroad. That's one of my goals during my career here at USF, but they might not know exactly where to start.
Mhm.
So we totally understand that. Usually, what I ask students is kind of look a little bit of a broader picture, right? Focus on some larger questions about themselves first. That naturally helps whittle things down. Usually it's
Mhm.
three things. One is how long would the student like to be abroad, right? Most study abroads are pretty much either some amount of weeks or a full semester. You would never find, for example, a week-long program in the middle of October, right? A lot of these programs are based off the American model. Students are in school, right? Second question would be, where is the student interested in going? Right now, that's going to look different for different students, and we've seen the whole gamut over the years. Right, I've seen students who might have ancestry or family from a country, say Italy, for example. They might want to go there. We have students who might be more comfortable going to one region than another, just because maybe they're more familiar with it.
Mhm.
We have students who want to go as totally far off the beaten path as they possibly can. I mean, really, throw a dart at a map,
Right.
see where it lands, kind of thing. Third would be, what kind of experience does a student want, right? Things like internships, maybe a traditional classroom setting. There's no one right answer to any of those, of course, naturally.
Mhm.
So by asking students those three questions, right, and having them take some time to reflect upon them themselves, it really helps sort of whittle down the process a little bit, right? Because if you're just looking at all the program types and all the different combinations, it can be overwhelming, to be sure. But once a student starts asking themselves, how long do I want to be abroad? Where would I might be interested in going abroad? And what type of academic experience am I interested in? Then we found that naturally, that's usually when they come back to us, and we can start talking about specific programs, sort of whittling down the list
Mhm.
more. Also, a
Fantastic.
good place to start is, of course, talking to their academic advisor.
Mm.
Regardless what year they are in within their major or what semester, it's never a bad idea to talk to their academic advisor, look at the degree map for the remainder of their time at USF, and try and see when might be the best time to go abroad so as to not interfere with degree progression or incurring excess credit hours. And that's a conversation usually students have with their academic advisor individually.
Definitely.
I'm curious, Joseph, and maybe this just depends on the individual student. Have you found there to be a specific generalization, like junior year, sophomore year, where it makes the most sense for students to study abroad?
Great question, Ashley. So the only real parameters that USF puts on when a student cannot study abroad would be typically first semester freshman year, which practically speaking would be very difficult anyways.
Yeah.
And in some but not all cases, their graduating semester, whether that be fall, spring, or summer. Usually students, we advise them not to go abroad their last semester, because if they're earning a transcript from a foreign entity, foreign university, an affiliate partner, whomever it may be, the credits typically don't come back in time to their USF transcript before the state of Florida closes their record.
Right.
Okay.
Now, there are exceptions. We do offer things like direct credit programs where students, for example, graduating on, say, a summer term, could go on one of those programs. It doesn't involve foreign credit. It's our faculty teaching our classes just as if they would take a class on campus. So there are some exceptions, but typically we tell them to steer away from first semester freshman year, last semester senior year. On average, most students are going sophomore, junior year, usually summer between sophomore, junior, or summer between junior and senior year on average.
Okay.
And this kind of brings up a question for both in a sense. Like, how long did it take you, Kelsey, to kind of put your uh, experience in play, right? How long, when did you start the process? How long does it take? And we'll talk about deadlines because that's something students do need to be aware of in order to make that dream a reality.
Yeah, so I actually studied abroad this summer, like after my freshman year.
Okay.
So a little bit, I guess, early in a sense. But since I was working with education abroad, I kind
Mm-hmm.
of had some exposure to the programs. I was like super excited about it. And I did receive a study abroad scholarship from the honors college, and so I knew that I had that money that I needed to use at some point. So I was just kind of like looking at the programs. It was kind of a little late, I remember. It was after some of the deadlines for our faculty led programs had passed. Because it's an affiliate program, some of those kind of have later deadlines.
Okay.
So it had a deadline in like May or something, and I went abroad in August.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
did that answer your
Oh,
question?
yeah. And I mean, it is going to differ per program.
Mhm.
And again, when the student maybe takes that first step, which is important to come and ask questions, talk to an advisor, whatever it might be, just reach out. And then maybe, Joseph, if you want to address some of the more important deadlines for students to kind of think about, depending on what experience it might look like.
Certainly. So for typically our FTICs, first time in college freshmen, I would advise, a semester or two in advance usually does the trick.
Okay.
For our transfer students, could be a little trickier, not impossible, but since they're usually coming in their maybe second, third year, depending, right? Maybe a semester in advance, right? Or even perhaps as they're matriculating into USF.
Mm-hmm.
Big overall deadlines to keep in mind would be the bulk of our portfolio, I would say, our faculty-led programs. They are going usually during summer. There are a few that go during spring break, even fewer that go during winter break. But if we're talking about our direct credit summer term programs, January 31st is usually our standard deadline. So that's kind of
Okay.
a good date just to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Semester exchange programs and some of our affiliates can have earlier deadlines, right? Typically, if a student wants to go abroad for a spring semester with one of our exchange partners, they're looking at a deadline of about September 15th, the term prior.
Okay.
If they're looking to go abroad on a semester exchange for a spring term, for a fall term, then usually it's February 15th.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
So about a semester or two in advance, usually. Again, is the
Yeah,
trick.
definitely. I would say, yeah, it's tricky if you're a transfer, but a lot of times they are going to come in, they need to meet with their advisor. And when students make that, they express that to us, then I'm immediately like, here's the website, check it out. There's so much to see. And then follow up, talk to a representative, reach out, and get started, acclimate here, and then look at some experiences to, like you said, enhance your portfolio. Looks great on a resume. So, yeah.
Yeah. I want to backtrack a little bit because both of you referenced something. So, Joseph, you referenced credits, and Kelsey, you referenced scholarships. So, Joseph, can you talk a little bit about, because we often get questions from students of, can I take, study abroad for credit? So, can you talk a little bit about that? And then if you want, one of you wants to talk a little bit more about scholarships, because I know I wish I knew this was one of the things that I wish I knew when I was in school,
Right,
that
yeah.
scholarships are available
Yeah.
to help, take away some of that financial burden.
Certainly. I'd be happy to lead the way with credits.
Yeah.
So essentially, the real main thing is it's really two camps, right? So either a student is participating on a study abroad where they're earning credit directly
Okay.
from the University of South Florida. Those we call direct credit programs. Those are our faculty-led programs, as we've been referencing, because literally USF faculty lead them. So that's pretty straightforward. It's the same as if a student took a class on campus.
So it'll have
Okay.
that same course number, like business law,
Yep, same
BUL,
course number,
3320.
same prefix, everything. It's
All right.
absolutely no difference.
All right.
Okay.
The only difference is in the method of delivery, right? A traditional classroom setting is, of
Right.
course, exactly that. Our study abroads are experiential learning. So the study abroad quite literally is the course. So all of the fun and exciting things students do as part of an itinerary abroad could be company visits, could be language learning, could be site visits, could be some mixture of all of the above. That's going to vary program by program. Those all quite literally feed into the course. So it's just a different type of experience, but it's the
Okay.
same class, same prefix, same number of
Yeah,
credits.
I just love that idea, like learning
yeah.
about marketing from like 10 different countries or something. Companies, sorry.
Do study abroads count as a high impact credit course?
Ooh, good question. Some can, some don't, I believe.
Okay.
Because it's going to depend on the specific
Got
course
it.
prefix.
Okay,
Right.
very
Just
good.
how on campus specific courses are HIP or not. Same with study abroad, right? With these study abroads, that's actually a good segue. Sometimes students get a little confused. Unlike, a traditional semester where a student would talk with their advisor, think about the classes they want to enroll in, and then register themselves in Oasis, study abroads are kind of the reverse, where they are built around specific courses. Now, some might have a short list that students can pick from. Some might just be one class that everyone on that particular study abroad is taking. But they all have that in common. So they are
Okay.
based around a specific courses. So in other words, a student wouldn't be able to register in any course and then hop in any study abroad. They would be trying to identify a study abroad that offers a course that fits in with their major somehow.
Got it. Kelsey, do you want to talk a little bit about scholarships?
Yeah, for sure. So my experience, the Honors College does offer some pretty amazing scholarships if you are an honors student. But beyond that, education abroad does also offer scholarships that are definitely something good to look into. Of Obviously, like there's financial aid as well. Sometimes the financial aid package that students are already getting can be applied towards their study abroad. And there's like the Office of National Scholars. There's some different like national scholarships that students can apply for, and they're very helpful in kind of making that process a little bit easier. But there's really just a lot of different options, and then things to look into and ways to fund your study abroad experience.
Okay. And then maybe just for your office, because it sounds like there's a wide range, but just so students don't miss those deadlines, can you remind us what the deadlines are for scholarships through your office?
Certainly. So if we're talking about specifically our education abroad scholarships that Kelsey had mentioned shortly ago, deadline for those is going to depend on the term. They're typically a little less than a semester in advance. So, for example, a student participating on a spring term program would be looking at a deadline of about February 15th.
Okay.
If they're applying to a spring or fall term program, they'd be looking at earlier deadlines. So it's typically about 3-4 months in advance, depending.
Very good. And I know you mentioned them earlier, but I'm asking you to say them again because I just think we don't want you to forget them, right? Because it's really important that if you want to apply for scholarships and apply early, right?
Earlier is always better. Of course, that being said, we understand sometimes students might come to us a little later. That's okay. We're happy to work with them as well. But I would say in general, yes, the earlier a student applies, it opens up more doors to financial aid.
Yep. Very good.
I want to clarify something.
Yeah.
Did I hear? I thought you said spring and spring.
Oh, sorry if I misspoke. If a student is looking at
No.
a summer term
Yeah.
study abroad, typically they would have a deadline of around February 15th for specifically our education abroad scholarship for a summer term program, right?
Yeah.
If they're studying abroad during a spring or fall term, the deadlines would usually be earlier. So the deadlines are tied to the term of the study abroad, to put it another way.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we got it
Yeah.
right.
Oh, no, absolutely.
That's
Thank you.
perfect.
Yeah. The funding piece was probably the one thing that I didn't understand. And a lot of times I was a first gen student. And I mean, just the experience of college itself, applying, finding scholarships to support your education. And then you hear about study abroad and you're like, oh, I really want to do it. But then it's another application, it's another process, and it's just intimidating, right? And I think students probably can see, and through our podcast and getting to know our guests and seeing faces and knowing that you're going to see these two when you walk in the office and they're ready to help. You've been on an experience. Did you study abroad when you were in?
I did actually.
I'm
With
curious.
my alma mater.
Okay.
I went to Shanghai, China for a semester.
Oh, nice.
Fall of my senior year.
Right. So you have these experiences to share. You know exactly kind of what students maybe you can anticipate the anxiety, the feelings, those types of things, the stress, the whatever. But okay. Excellent. Let's see. Typical misconceptions, maybe we could clarify if there's anything we haven't maybe addressed that you hear or see in the office or just maybe from friends, whoever.
Yeah, I'd be happy to start us off with that one.
Yeah.
So I think probably one of the most common misconceptions I see when we're speaking with students is, I've noticed over the years that traditionally a lot of students' conception of what a study abroad is, it's based maybe off mass media, maybe things they've seen in movies and whatnot. A lot of students think that the only type of study abroad is going abroad for a semester-long program. So they think of
Okay.
maybe staying with the host family, learning a language in, say, France, Spain, Italy, the UK, something like that, right? That is an option to be sure, and it's probably one of the older options within study abroads in the United States, just more generally speaking, but it's simply just one among many. Students are oftentimes surprised to learn that we offer direct credit programs, or that we offer things like internships, or that there are different types of programs. So they might say, "Wow, I'm really happy to hear that. That opens up a lot more doors for me." And say, we say that's great. That's what we're looking for.
How much does the time length for direct credit programs? What do those typically last?
Most of ours are operating during summer, so they're not all of summer. They happen on their own dates overseas. They're usually subsets of summer A, B, or C. Is an easy way to think about it. So they're occurring pretty much after exam periods end in May, and they'll end before fall term starts in August. Not to say that the programs are necessarily that long for our direct credit opportunities, just that they fall in between those dates, rather. They range anywhere from maybe 10 days to our shortest end to all the way to 12 weeks for some of our longest programs.
Okay.
Average might be somewhere around 2.5 to 3 weeks.
You're going to get credit for a course in 2.5 weeks.
Absolutely.
That's
Okay.
the best part about experiential learning is you're just immersed in, and it's just a wealth of.
And why not go to
knowledge.
Iceland in the summer and Florida instead? Just saying. Okay. Any misconceptions you've heard or anything that you're like, whoa, that's no.
Yeah, I think something that I've definitely heard, because sometimes I go give like class presentations to clubs. People think, oh, like study abroad, they're not going to have something for my major, but you'd be surprised at like the wealth of programs we offer. There's really something for everyone. Honestly, that sounds kind of cliche, but if you really look at all of the programs we have to offer, there's probably something that fits in your major somehow, or that even fits into something you're interested in. So I'd say for students to definitely look and just not kind of assume that we don't have anything.
I did happen to click on that major list on the website, and I was like shocked. It
Yeah.
was quite a few majors, and then I figure if your major's not there, go
Right.
ask.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're kind of coming to the end of our session today. And one of the things that we focus on this podcast and at USF and in the College of Business is leadership and leadership development and professional development. And so a question that we had for both of you is, as you look throughout, Joseph, your professional journey, and Kelsey, your student journey here, what would you say are resources that have been really beneficial to you in your growth?
Are you happy to start us off with that one, Kelsey? That is an excellent question. I'm actually sitting here thinking for a moment. Well, as a professional staff, I would say the greatest resource has been my fellow staff members, fellow coworkers, right? I would say that developing my ability to communicate effectively, developing the ability to try and articulate ideas concisely, succinctly, engaging those ideas with my coworkers has really taught me a lot about myself, how to articulate my inner thoughts, share them with coworkers, share them with students. So maybe not a resource per se. I realize I'm getting a little off track, but I think people are a resource. I think people are the greatest
definitely.
resource we have,
Absolutely.
right? I've been here about 10 years now, and I look just on a personal level, the amount of growth I've had. A lot of the things I've learned here, like most things in life, they carry over to the other parts of our personal lives. And I would say the ability to interact and better my communication with my colleagues has been my greatest resource.
Absolutely.
I'm
And
gonna second that. People are a great resource. I love my people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and as you say that, I think a huge part of communication, because communication is a huge part of leadership skills, but a part of that is active listening, right? And so thinking about like, how are you listening to your colleagues, and how do you communicate that as you're moving forward? I love that. Kelsey?
Yeah. So kind of like you said, there's so many different resources on campus. So I'd say that doesn't kind of directly address the question, but sort of like kind of taking advantage of the opportunities that are available to you. I like to kind of get involved in different leadership opportunities on campus, like student government. I'm involved with the Honors College leadership team. So I really think it's just kind of seeing like what the campus has to offer and then like engaging with that, because that's really how you like get the most out of your college experience. I'll also say, like, in terms of study abroad, it's obviously been very helpful to have Joseph and Wendy and the people in the education abroad office kind of help like guide me through that. And also just in terms of like professional development, Joseph is like very good about that, very good about including me in things like this podcast, for example. So it's just like a lot of development opportunities, like speaking in classrooms. That's something that I wasn't necessarily excited to do at first, but I think it definitely was something that's beneficial for me, because obviously public speaking is a skill that is invaluable. So yeah, it doesn't directly address the question, but
No, I think
totally
it
addresses.
does.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to something that we talk a lot about, or Jill, I think we've talked a lot about on
I
this
thought you were going to
podcast.
say you ramble about. Thanks.
No, but getting involved,
Mhm.
taking really advantage of the resources on this campus, because there's so many. And I think the more you can be involved, we often talk about what employers want to see on a resume, and the more involved you can be, the stronger you're building your portfolio and learning from people like Joseph, who are giving you those opportunities, pushing you outside of your comfort zone. That's what's driving you to be a better professional in the long run. So I think that's absolutely.
And I have 2 questions for Kelsey. Let me do the first. Don't let me forget I'll probably forget my second. Anyway, you came to USF first time in college, right? Were you pretty involved in high school, or yes?
Yes, I
So
was.
I'm just trying to think about your transition to USF, right? And then
Right.
if you are involved in high school, I think it does make it easier to then branch out, take those risks, and connect where you want to and explore.
Right.
And how did that happen for you? Like,
Yeah. So I definitely will say I was a little bit of an overachiever in high school. I like to be involved. But I will say that we really kind of have a unique opportunity at USF St. Pete, because we're kind of on the smaller side. There's just so many different opportunities, and it's so much easier to get like a leadership position in something and kind of just like jump right in.
Okay.
Whereas at like the Tampa campus, things are a little bit more competitive. Like there's a lot more options there, but sometimes that can be overwhelming. So I think that kind of definitely encouraged me to be more involved. And
Okay.
then I'll also say, like, once you get more involved, there's kind of like a network of like student leaders. So you see everyone on campus, you're like, hey, like all the time. So that's definitely nice. But yeah, I think in some ways, I was always gonna be more involved.
Okay.
But I think if I were to go to like a bigger campus, that I might have been like less so.
And
That
if you
makes
could
sense.
pick one thing for a new student to jump on, like,
Ooh.
what should they do? What would you tell them?
I would say really to just, because everyone's interests are different,
Sure.
everyone's goals are different. So I would really just look at all the different clubs, like look at the little board and just be like, see what looks interesting. And I would go put yourself out there, try to meet new people, because that really makes it so much easier.
It
You feel more
does.
comfortable, like once you know people, and just not be afraid to like put yourself out there and try new things. Because even if it's something you don't have that much experience in, but you want to learn more about, I'd say it's definitely worth pursuing those opportunities.
All right.
So,
Thanks for
yeah.
letting me pick your brain a little more about
Yeah,
that.
of course.
You gonna add something, Joseph?
Oh no, just listening.
Okay,
It's always
okay.
great to hear a student's perspective.
Right. Thank you for sharing. And we can provide all these opportunities. We inundate students in orientation. I just don't always, and I'm at fault for not doing it too. I didn't want to take a risk, but I wanted to meet people, but you don't know how. And with, like you mentioned, our smaller, unique, intimate campus, as I call it, there are a lot of opportunities. And you're working in the office too. Working on campus, I think, can really bridge some things for students. So you don't necessarily have to go out and kind of make friends, rather apply for a job on campus, and then you're immediately part of the USF family and the resources that are just automatically available to you. I know I've seen growth with all of our student assistants. So consider employment on campus is one thing I was just going to wrap. What are you going to say? I feel like there's this
No.
thought simmering.
No,
All right.
I'm
Okay.
here for it.
All right. Well, we've really probably talked you out But is there anything we've missed or not covered? We want to give you one last opportunity, like something students should know about education abroad, international, whatever it might be.
I would say sky's the limit, right? You're limited only by your beliefs.
Yeah.
So if you believe that you can do it, you can. Come to us and we'll find something that works great for you.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, kind of to build off that, I would also say we are here to help you. So please come talk to us. That's literally all we're here for. So we really like when students come talk to us and we can kind of help them find the program that's right for them and answer their questions. So.
Fantastic. All right. I hope we drive some students your way.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Getting Down to Business. Special shout out to our folks at Innovative Ed for making this episode possible. We'll see you again soon.